Today, we're looking at a green ink by Rohrer and Klingner Smaragdgrun, and I know I butchered it, so I'm going to call it green from now on. As always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. If you like green inks, there's a link to a green ink playlist down in the description. I'm an ink guy. Let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It certainly brings some shading. Like if you look at the Smaragdgrun, the M is much lighter than the S, and then it works its way darker through the middle, and on the green part in the middle, it starts getting a little bit lighter. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some decent shading as quick goes darker to lighter to darker. Jumps is a very dark word where over goes a little bit lighter to darker, and 14 seconds to dry. Medium is a little lighter than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, a much better shading. Quick goes dark to light to dark. The goes light to dark. Over goes dark, a little bit lighter at the E, very dark at the R, 19 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation, and we are getting that in the writing. In the smear test, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Sailor My First pen with a medium fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. Now, the second writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 22 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone, maybe a little bit lighter than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. It shows some shading. Brown starts a little darker, gets a little lighter. Quick goes dark to light to dark. 29 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine shows no color variation, and we didn't get any. And the medium shows some, and we definitely got it better there. The smear test says you probably cannot recover it if you smear while you're writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this ink really does run away from the water. And you see, as it comes up, we get this nice green and a great bright blue across the top. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put in the water, and it looks exactly the same. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between these if I didn't mark the second one with the D. I don't expect any resistance from this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. There's no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is about the same tone, maybe just a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading, like quick is a bit darker than the word fox, so we see some there. The starts a little dark or lighter and gets a little darker. Lazy starts a little darker, gets a little lighter, 16 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen. The shading stands out better. Fox goes dark to light to dark. Dog goes light to dark. The is a very dark word, especially compared to what's around it. 23 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation, and we do get that. And the smear test, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. This smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it's the lowercase h that makes me not want to use it in a note-taking situation. It gets a bit blown out there. I'm just very risk averse. Now, the water is completely reactivating and lifting it off the paper, which is no surprise looking at the chromatography, and that it was all that it took to get it out of my pen. The pen flush is doing everything that water does, nothing more. It's not needed here. In the 1/3 bleach solution, you're not going to need it, but it does completely obliterate it. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. This isn't to see any kind of performance change, really to see tone change that we go through with this ink. And really, we're not seeing anything that changes in terms of its tone. It's not lighter or darker or anything. This is a very opaque ink in that it's not being changed by what's underneath it. It's very interesting in that way. I was not expecting it. But you know, if you're writing on yellow, you're still going to get this green. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Rohrer and Klingner's Smaragdgrun, yep, green, I'm going to keep trying to say that, has a viscosity of 2.17, making it normal. Now, if you're interested in how all that viscosity stuff is done, there's a link to that video down in the description. The next writing sample is done on black and red paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade. Look at the going lighter to darker to lighter. Quick, going darker to lighter to darker. Brown going dark to light. 7 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice shading. Brown going dark to light to dark. Over going light to dark. Nice, and 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation. It shows a bit more in the medium, and it did show off a little bit better in the medium writing. The smear test says you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Rohrer and Klingner's Smaragdgrun has an average dry time of 21 seconds, putting it right on the edge, but normal. The last writing sample is done on white lines paper. Not a paper made for fountain pens, so all of these little spots that are bleeding much heavier into but not through the page are in themselves not a bad indication for this ink. It does mean that I would not use the back of the paper, but it doesn't ruin the page underneath. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine is just a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 7 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. And the smear test, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Rohrer and Klingner's Smaragdgrun, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. This is such a nice green that is, it shades well. I wanted a yellow that really, really helped this pop. And I chose Krishna's Dhaanu Udhak. I know I killed that name. If you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Rohrer and Klingner's Smaragdgrun? As a green, it is kind of turquoise leaning, the green kind of turquoise. Because the tone is nice, that isn't a problem, especially since it does come with some nice shading. I'm very happy I sampled it, but I can't see having a bottle personally. So what nib and pen will give the best writing experience with this ink? A really wet pen puts down a darker tone than I would prefer from this ink. I really like it the most from a medium flow, medium nib, where it preserves its great color and shading. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Pen BBS number 137.